Okay. So, Hamzah, thanks for joining us from Aberdeen this
Yeah,
afternoon.
Aberdeen. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite cold right now.
yeah. Um, to the contrary, it's pretty warm here. So my name's Paul, and yeah, as you can see, I'm wearing my mask. Yes,
Don't
because
worry, I'm alone in my room, so
yes, because we are all gathered in one room
okay.
in Villejuif in Paris. Yeah.
All right.
So thanks for agreeing to join us. Okay. And I would like just to put one student on the spot to introduce for that student to introduce who they are as a group, and from that to uh, uh, for them to ask you some questions.
No problem. That's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll just get my camera sorted there. All right. So there we are. So Hamzah, thanks for joining us from Aberdeen. So there are some questions that the students have, but could you uh, first just tell us what your job is and what took you to Aberdeen?
Okay. Yeah. I've received a couple of questions from you, so I see it's already going around a bit on my profile. So I'll just go over a bit on it. Well, I consider myself a software engineer. At least at this point, I still do. But at the point, I hold two jobs. One, which is Chief Technology Officer at Obsidian, which is a fintech company where we develop financial technology products for bridging the African and Africans in the diaspora. And I work as Chief of Research and Development at the Hacklab Foundation, which is a foundation that we founded to be able to bridge the gap in technology between Africa and the world, because we believe the talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. So we are working to bring this opportunity to that talent that we have in Africa right now. And right now I'm in Aberdeen and I'm furthering my education, and I'm doing my master's in artificial intelligence, which is a field that I've worked in for the last few years. Yeah.
Okay. So artificial intelligence is your specialism.
Yes, artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Okay. And could I just pass the floor, pass over to one of the students to maybe introduce them as a group? Um, so who could do that? Um, who would? Uh, okay. Uh, Arnak, could you introduce who you are as a collective and what's the purpose of the apprenticeship?
Hello.
Maybe put on your camera if you could.
Okay, so you can listen to me right now, right?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
So basically, we're all in computer science school, and we are in a special course that is apprenticeship. So half of our time we are working on different computer science domain um, enterprises, and the other half of the time we're at school, like right now, and studying. So in this classroom, you can meet a lot of different people that have different jobs. For my case, I'm project manager. At my right is Laetitia. She's an software engineer. We also have some cybersecurity, I think. Yeah, and yeah, basically we have all types of computer science domains to students and apprentices in the classroom. So you understand the basically what we do and how the classroom is composed.
Yeah, that
Thanks.
sounds interesting. Yeah.
Thanks, Arnak.
Thank you.
So, um, um, Hamza, have you are you familiar with the an apprenticeship system?
I'm not sure. Yeah, is that like an internship or a resident?
Yeah, is it an internship?
Yes, the mic. So yeah, the colleague says it's basically an internship. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Then yeah, if it is, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
So training on the job. Okay. And maybe cut your mic, whoever. Yeah.
Yeah, I've received a couple of questions from you, so
Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
whether you'd want to go ahead and ask the questions, or you just want me to go ahead and
Okay.
go through the questions that I received
Yeah.
from you.
Well, if you name the person who posed that question, and then we'll ask them to pose it.
Okay, so I think I went through the questions and I tried to structure them in a way that can create a talk. So the first question is from Henri,
Okay.
which is
And
yeah,
Henri, could you ask your question?
Hi.
Hi, Henri.
Hi. I don't really have a question. Yeah.
You can open it on a link.
Yeah. How did you first get interested in the tech world?
Okay. Yeah, so like many people, I believe in your classroom as well, we got interested in the tech world growing up, and I'm working with computers. So it wasn't much different for myself. I remembered when I first got my first computer. I didn't know much about programming or anything, but I was basically just around moving around and breaking things on the computer. And it being interesting that you being able to change pieces of code. Mostly was just typing commands on the Windows prompt just to change the color of the fonts and stuff. But that was pretty interesting for me. And from there, I started working on hardware, tearing my computer apart, putting it back together. I was pretty interested in hardware in the beginning. Then it got to a point where I realized software was more volatile than hardware. It doesn't evolve as much. So I switched completely to software, and being able to change things and then immediately be able to see them appear in a different way before you. You're not writing the code yourself, because at that point I didn't know much about code, but I knew that if I just look at someone's code and probably change a variable that is in charge of changing maybe a color, it does something pretty interesting. And that was how I started in tech. And I decided, well, I didn't just want to be changing other people's code. I wanted to be doing my own stuff. And that's how I went deeper into it. Yeah.
Okay. So you went deeper into coding.
Yeah, I went deeper into coding. So it was when I was in secondary school that I got my first book on something like Java. So I think my first programming language was actually in Java, though I didn't go into details on anything Java. But the first language that I actually went deep into was Python. That was when I was done with secondary school, which is high school for you. So when I was done with that, then I took a course with a professional educational institution that does professional courses for software engineering. So I took a 6 month course where I learned web development and software engineering. And then I got really interested in Python at that point. At that point, we went a lot more into details on connecting databases to front ends and all the interesting stuff you can do. And it got more and more interesting being able to see visual stuff that you can do. And that's pretty ironic, because right now I work in backend where you don't see a lot of what you actually do. But it was actually being able to see the effect of the code that you write that really got me so interested. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe Alexis, if you want to ask your question, because it relates directly. Like about which is your favorite. All right. Or let's jump to Yves. Yves, your question. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so there we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So my question was, why did you stop being a software engineer? Because from what I saw on your LinkedIn profile, you seem to have stopped. And was it due to a lack of passion? For example, it got exhausted, or maybe you just want to try something else for another reason?
I haven't stopped being a software engineer. So like I said, I still consider myself a software engineer, and I still write code, although it's not as intense as I used to. So it has begun taking a more managerial approach because I now have engineers that work under me. So I have to make sure that the code that they actually write works in production. So it's more of code review, architecture, and looking more at how the whole piece fits together rather than on the little pieces themselves. So I have not stopped writing code, and that is one of my central tenets. I've always been interested in software engineering, and it's not just a job for me because I genuinely enjoy the process. Even though sometimes it can get so annoying because you're working on a project and you get somewhere and you're really stuck. That tends to happen sometimes. But when you're done with a project, the joy of looking back at what you built, the in the zone feeling that you have when you are working through that project, and those eureka moments, those are the things that really push me. So I would always write code, no matter what role I find myself in, even if it's not just for a company or something, just for my personal project. So I genuinely enjoy writing code.
Okay.
And I don't know if William would agree with that, because you have a question, I think, about software development. Yeah, right. No
Hi.
audio. Yeah.
Hi, William.
Hi, do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, William.
Okay, sorry. So, hello, Hamzah. So, I actually had two questions, but the first was about the experience that made you acquire more skills in the job that you're doing now. And after, I was going to ask you what is the state of the IT department in Ghana, and is it your goal to help develop it there?
Okay, so if I get you, you're asking about what led me to gather most of the skills that I use today on the job. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what led to gathering most of my skills that I have on the job today is I'd attribute that to personal projects and professional courses, because I've always been avid at those throughout school. Because back when I was working on my undergrad program, we did do a lot of programming courses, but you don't really go into details because undergrad is always about introducing you to maybe programming fundamentals, then introducing you to a couple of programming languages and how those programming languages have different paradigms, but not like go from the beginning of one programming language to the end. So if I found something pretty interesting, then I took the time to actually take professional courses to go through to the end with it, use it to build maybe a couple of personal projects, and that's where most of my software engineering skills came from. And working in the industry allowed me to hone these skills, because working on personal projects is one thing, but there's another thing when you're working on projects that are going to be deployed on professional servers and working with other developers. It is a whole different game field. So that also allowed me to be able to see how those skills are going to translate into industry, and learn how to collaborate, how one person's work feeds into another, and all that. And that has been very crucial to what I know today. And
Okay.
I think then, yeah, the next question was on the
Like
state of the industry in Ghana and how we are working on developing that. Yeah. So like a lot of countries, there has been this revolution. If you're not living in where maybe computing started, there has been this revolution where it is natural that you can't do without computing these days. So the gap is eventually being bridged, but slower for some than others. And yeah, at the Hacklab Foundation, that's what we work to do. And over the last 5 years, we started as maybe just a hackathon that was run by students. And from there, we've grown to an organization that runs the largest hackathon in Africa. And we are able to have this community and link people to jobs, internships, and all that in order to develop them. And we've been able to touch a lot of people, been able to take a lot of initiatives that are developed during the hackathon and then push them into other companies for them to be able to fuel them to become startups and all that. So we work towards those kind of stuff in order to be able to bridge this gap. Bring in opportunities from companies like maybe IBM, where they have this Digital Nation Africa program, which is a learning program where they open a platform to African students to be able to learn how to program and all these kind of courses. We try to link people up to them so that they can be able to learn the skills that are going to bridge this gap. So that is the work that we are putting in to kind of bridge this gap. We are also working on gathering the relevant data on the African ecosystem to be able to generate insights. So if someone wants to invest in the African ecosystem, we are immediately able to tell you this is what you're looking at and that is what you're looking at. So because data speaks better than just we being passionate about what we are doing. If we're able to speak with the data, that would speak more to people than we just telling a story of the African people.
Yeah, I see.
I think that probably links to Ahcene's question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you said, you were involved with the Hacklab Foundation.
Yes, please.
First of all, I want to say that I think it's a really interesting and important thing what they do in Africa.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you if you think today there is a huge gap in the tech field in Africa, and if yes, how can we lessen that gap?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and yeah, we do think there's a gap in Africa and how we are working with technology these days. It's like we are looking at this kind of infrastructure where maybe you have to build a spacecraft, and in Africa, most of that spacecraft is built on the ground, and you have to, especially those that are actually learning the profession and all that, is built on the ground, and you now have to deploy it to space, which takes, well, which probably never gets done in a lot of cases and takes a lot of resources, as opposed to people who have the resources to actually build that in space. And I'm talking about the space, and I'm using that to refer to the cloud and how apps are currently built these days. Because if you're building something, it's going to run out there for people to be able to connect to it. But people don't have the resources to be able to access these stuff. You wouldn't find someone these days who's building everything from scratch, including the maybe artificial intelligence that you are building into it, building the models on your own infrastructure, and that you're going to have cloud offerings that you can just use to whip up solutions real fast, which is some of the stuff that is lacking with a lot of these people and what they are working on. So that's what we are working on, linking these people up to. So if you're able to develop these skills by maybe building stuff on your PC to take them to production, we try to get you access to some of these resources so you can immediately be able to build on that. Yeah.
I think that relates to Esaias' question, possibly.
Yes. So, hello.
Hi.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So my question is that nowadays the trend is the AI cloud-based solutions, etc. But do you think that it will last in the future? And what do you think about movements like no-code ideology? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the easiest to start with on your question is on the no-code ideology. So the future is very hard to predict for anyone, no matter how experienced you are in the field. But no-code ideology, I think that can be useful for you developing maybe very simple solutions. You're starting a business and you just need a solution maybe to collect maybe data for an e-commerce or something real simple. But if you're looking at generating something like maybe you're building the next Twitter, the next Facebook, or the next company that is going to do something that has to evolve and pivot real fast, you're going to use no-code ideology, and you get to a point where you need a new facet of that solution. That is just not possible with that solution. And at that point, you're stuck, and yeah, you've already put a lot of resources into this, and maybe the only other way to work on that is to rework the whole solution in a way that is customizable. So with no code, we are not quite there yet. It definitely helps people who are just trying to prototype real small solutions and see how they are going to work in a certain space. But if you're looking at building something that is going to pivot and evolve real fast, I'd advise you to use something that you have complete control over. And on the cloud has offered an easy way for anyone to get online, because it will be very hard for you to have your own PC at home, powered with electricity, connected to the internet, and be able to maintain updates and patches and all that for you're probably just running a cafe website or something. So the cloud, I think it's also here to stay, and it might go through some changes in the future. A lot of those changes are expected, because it's not just about offering hosting space for people. It's about what value you can offer on top of that hosting solutions. So that's why you see people like Amazon bringing up new solutions daily on what they are already offering on their hosting solutions, to just make it easier for you to plug stuff into. So maybe there are no code solutions, and Lambda functions in a way are more customizable. So that is another thing between no code and actually writing code, which makes it easier and all that. So that is what's going to drive the cloud in the future. These kind of solutions that people are going to be able to offer on top of the bare bones metal servers that they can give to people. And in terms of artificial intelligence and where we are going in the future, that's also another thing. And artificial intelligence, well, people have always talked about it in the sense of there's this artificial intelligence winter, where there is a long period where artificial intelligence is not really doing much. But these days, it's all over the news and all that. And people think maybe we are going somewhere. Others think right after all this noise that people are making, we are going to hit another winter where we're going to a long period of time, and we are going to have nothing actually moving in that field. And very smart people think both things. So it is actually something that is real hard for anyone to decide. But what I think is that there are a lot of things that we just don't know how to code yet, or they are just too complex for us to code. For example, you might know how to fly a helicopter, but being able to program something to be able to do that, you don't know how to translate that knowledge into code for it to be able to do that. That is very hard. You might be able to immediately look at your friend and recognize his face and be like, this is my friend, that is my friend, and all that. But you don't know how to write a code to let someone kind of decide that this is how I look at my friend and know that is him. It is just too complex. It seems so intuitive to you, but it is just too complex for us to write code about. And the way for us to look at these stuff is to be able to train the computers to be able to learn these stuff. Because when we are programming, we're actually telling the computer, these are the rules for you to decide what this is. But with artificial intelligence, we are like, look at this and get this output, and then generate the rules yourselves. So it becomes easier for us to be able to build solutions to do stuff that we just don't know how to code yet. So I don't think that is going away anytime soon. So that is going to be very crucial to the future, with more and more complex problems that we tackle, including space travel and all that.
It's a very thoughtful response.
Thank you.
Yeah. And but on a more practical level, I think Carine, if you could pose your question. She's coming.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
My question was, what does your job, Chief Technology Officer, consist of?
What does?
what does your job,
As
Chief
CTO
Technology Officer, consist
Okay.
of?
Okay, so as CTO, like I began with what I was saying, it's basically like everything technology in the company falls under your desk. So my company is a fintech. That means we have a lot of financial movements going on in the company, and we have a lot of people with financial knowledge, people engaging in forex trading, bond trading, and all that. But the technology section of the company is looking at taking all this knowledge and building services that are going to automate them. Because if you can take industry knowledge and be able to maybe build an expert system that is able to do the same thing, it's able to handle a lot more than a human person can. And you can just use horizontal scaling to be able to scale that to do a lot more than you being able to hire people to fill these roles. And so my role is generally about, first, from strategy. What are we going to be doing in technology? What services are we building, and how are they going to work together, and all that way down to the implementation on what tools are we looking at using, and how easy is it to get developers to kind of build services around the infrastructure we are choosing. How well does it scale with this task that we are working on? Even though a lot of these are just software engineering and architect kind of responsibilities, they all translate up to the role of the CTO. And it is your job to make sure all this is done the right way. So everything technology in the company comes through you. And if my CEO needs any update on what is going on in technology, why is this working that way? Why is that working that way? That comes through me. So I have to make sure everything is running in the right way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Are there any situations that have come up recently which you've had to mitigate a problem?
Oh, yeah. Paul, I believe you work in technology, so you know that is like the daily thing. Yeah. So there's always like a crisis where you have to mitigate something, probably services going down and all that, or you being able to just meet deadlines. And well, maybe we work using Agile like a lot of new organizations. And usually in a lot of these companies, the hard thing is people who don't work in engineering don't necessarily understand how these practices work. You lock in your sprint for maybe the next 2 weeks, and this is something that you're focusing on. And maybe something broken pops up, or something that someone thinks is important to fix pops up. How to manage these stuff and still be able to deliver stuff on the assigned deadlines and all that. So those are all stuff that pop up daily, and you just have to learn how to work through them. Yeah. So it's all part of the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Working through them, with positive outcomes, with
exactly.
results.
Yeah.
But I think Pierre, maybe your question kind of moves the conversation on a bit.
Yes. Hello. Do you hear
Hello,
me?
Pierre. Yeah.
Yes. I have a question about microservices.
Okay.
I'm not sure about if you are using them, but I wanted to know if microservices are affecting your job and your company right now, and how much is it things in your daily job?
Okay. Yeah, so like a lot of these things out there, I like to look at them as tools for the job. And if there are any services that need to be written in a way that makes them easy for you to just pick out a piece and plug in another piece, that is where microservices fall in. So yes, we do use microservices. For example, we are building a lot of solutions that go around a lot of fields in fintech, but it would be good for all these to go through maybe a central model or microservice that is going to manage accounts. So maybe if you are working through your university and you're trying to access your mail, you don't need one account for that. You're trying to access maybe your grades, you don't need one account for that. So a microservice for handling accounts is one thing. A microservice for handling maybe bonds is another thing. A microservice for handling it's just a way of structuring a lot of things to work together without them being so tightly coupled that it is so hard for you to make changes to one, take out one, and all that. They should work together, but be very easy for you to focus on one at any point in time, single it out and do changes to it or anything without affecting any other ones. Yeah, so it is a tool for the job, yeah, where it fits and where it works, yeah. It is something that we do use for the job, yeah. So I think the important thing here is to always look at these tools and know that not just because it's fancy, that is why you use it for the job, but look for where it actually fits and does the job really well, then you actually fit it in there, and yeah, it will do the job really well.
Okay. And maybe to focus on the AI, maybe machine learning, Zakaria, maybe your question comes in. Not quite on the audio.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So, as someone who has started working on making models at work, I was just wondering what was your favorite deep learning library and why? So, I like to use TensorFlow, but maybe you.
Yeah, I think yeah, we are in the same field. Yeah, so I definitely do like to work with TensorFlow as well because of the support that we have around it. But mostly when I work with TensorFlow, I work on top of Keras because that allows you a layer of abstraction, and you can be able to whip up stuff real fast. You can build a neural network in a matter of minutes, if not even seconds, with a couple of layers that is so clear for you to look at and be able to see what is actually happening with the layers without being able to go into the nitty-gritty of what is actually going on to get that running. So you get to focus more on the artificial intelligence than focusing on the code, because that is very important to artificial intelligence. If you look at artificial intelligence and you look at coding usually you start with something, an end goal in mind, and it is just about getting the code that is going to get you from A to B, which it might take some creativity and work, but then you do know where you are going. But artificial intelligence is a lot of prototyping, and you just want to know whether this is what works. And by the time you're done with something, you might have tried like maybe close to 100 models just to see which works well. So it allows you to not focus on the code, but to focus on the mathematical models that are going on under the code. If you work with Keras, that will allow you to work a lot faster, and sometimes to another level that you can go beyond not working with Keras directly is maybe using Octave or MATLAB just to test out stuff really fast. That allows you to look at multiplying matrices, doing all those matrix calculations real fast, and it gives you a lot of functions to be able to do this real fast. So depending on what you are trying to test out, you can use any of these tools, which would allow you to focus on the model rather than the code. Then once you get your model right, then you can move lower into maybe working directly with TensorFlow. Yeah. So I do love Keras a lot. Yeah.
What do you use?
I use Keras a bit, since on top of TensorFlow. But sometimes I tested PyTorch. I was just wondering which one should I focus on. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, the thing with these libraries is, like I said, it is the mathematical model that really matters. And if you are looking at something like maybe you are doing it is all about the model that really matters. If you get the model right, you can use any of these tools to actually get it done. And even when you extend to maybe bigger models that cannot be done on one machine or all that, you would need a different tool like Apache Spark, something that will allow you Hadoop and all those stuff that will allow you to run stuff on different machines, because artificial intelligence slowed down for a long time because of computing was not powerful enough to drive it to where it can go. And still somehow that is still a problem. So being able to split up tasks to run them on different machines has become very useful, especially training large models like the ResNet model and a lot of other models that we use today. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. And maybe a couple more. Wiem. maybe your question relates. Not yet. There's no audio coming through actually from Wiem. Yeah. No.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got it.
Okay. Hello. So
Hello?
I was asking if you were planning on working in the AI field instead of your current job of CTO in the future.
Yeah, so my current job of CTO does not really take me away from the AI field, and it is something that we are looking at applying in a lot of places within even my role right now within the company. So this knowledge from AI gives me an upper hand in being able to handle the data that we gather from clients and the solutions that we build around them, the offerings that we can offer on top of the services that we already look at getting customers to use, the recommendation systems we can build on top of them, how we can personalize these services for people to be able to use. So my current job does not take me away from the AI field. Yeah. So AI actually affords you different opportunities, whether you want to work in the industry or you want to continue to work in academia on a research purposes. But I actually prefer being able to apply it in the industry for users to use. Yeah. Although academia also comes with its perks, being able to work on the very cutting edge artificial intelligence technologies, but it's a trade that you have to pick between these two. And I do like industry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe Remi, that there's some link between practical job experience plus academia. So maybe your question relates. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. So hello. I've seen on your LinkedIn profile that you were a Microsoft student partner. And how did you enter this partnership, and what was it like?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to be Google Student Ambassador, not Microsoft Student Partner. But the year that the applications were supposed to open for that, I think it went on hold for Google Student Ambassador, and it opened for Microsoft Student Partners. And what I did was I placed in my application, which comes with what you are looking to do in the role, and just a video on some of the things that you've already done within campus. And I was already working heavily with a lot of student organizations on campus to be able to hook up students to technology and educate them on how they can use them. So yeah, Microsoft offered me this role alongside with a couple of development platforms to be able to introduce students to. They have this platform that they call DreamSpark, which opens up a lot of opportunity for students in terms of the free tools that they can use in development. And throughout my role as Microsoft Student Partner, I focus heavily on being able to educate these students on how they can start their software development careers using these tools. Most of them were real simple, much like Scratch from the MIT labs. They had this game studio called Kodu Game Studio, which allows you to build up games real fast. And some of these people actually ended up becoming game developers in the game industry and all that. Yeah, so it was quite helpful being able to access these tools at that point in time. That was also around the time Windows 10 came out. So much of our campaign for the first cohort of Microsoft Student Partners was also focused on educating people on Windows 10 features, how it differed from Windows 7, just trying to get students to hitch onto that platform at that point, because some loved it, some didn't like it, but it turned out to be better than what we were on at that point. So yeah, we did a lot of Windows upgrades as well, run a lot of hackathons and tech conferences through which we just tried to educate people on Windows 10, and Office 365 was also getting popular at that point, so it was mostly focused on those technologies, the development tools, Windows 10, and then Office 365, and how the whole Microsoft ecosystem works together. So that's what my work around Microsoft Student Partner was focused on. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, just following on from that is a career question. Does it enhance your career prospects to have these extra additions?
Oh yeah, I think definitely, because it was already given us a lot of industry experience, and then Microsoft had a lot of partner companies in the industry as well, which we had a chance of working with, being able to push their tools. Some of them were building laptops that were running on Windows 10 and all that. So it definitely did help us to meet a lot more people, link up to a lot more people. And we also did the Windows 10 launch in Ghana after Satya Nadella went ahead with the Microsoft Windows 10 launch. There was a Windows 10 launch in Ghana, which was led by the Microsoft student partners. So that brought us a lot of people from the industry who work with these tools, and that gives an opportunity for you to be able to sell yourself to these people, because you otherwise wouldn't have been able to be in the same room with them. And a lot of years out after that program, you still can call a lot of them for different stuff and all that. So it hooks you up to a lot of these people. And in technology, it's definitely easier to get a referral than to just submit your CV and being able to get a job. So if someone says, yeah, I've met this guy who was doing this job and doing it real good, yeah, that's definitely better than being able to just submit your CV, pass it through an ATS these days, which is a computer that is deciding whether you are worthy of the job before actually putting you in front of a person. And most people never even go through the ATS, even though they are very good at the job themselves. The CV is just not what the ATS is looking for. Yeah. So it definitely helps. Yeah.
Hamzah, could I just ask you to give us your opinion on the ATS, the automated, what is the automated
applicant tracking system?
Applicant tracking system, where it searches for keywords.
But, yeah, it searches for keywords within
your CV. Is it actually used? Is it actually used?
It is very widely used, a lot, because you apply for a job with a company like Amazon or with Microsoft and those kind of companies. You know, you're applying for that job with thousands of other applicants, and it is just not practical for someone to sit down and look through every CV and be able to sieve them out to find out which ones actually they should bring in for an interview. So the first layer and the first sieve that you usually go through is the ATS, and what it does is scan your resume to be able to pick out some keywords and know how many years of experience you have in this role, and be able to know whether you are actually fit for that role. And you might be fit for that role, but the ATS is just hard for it to be able to pick up a lot of these stuff, especially if you are using resumes that maybe contain a lot of graphics, 2-column resumes instead of just running down 1 column and all that. So it is always better to have 2 resumes, one that you might just hand out to people. They look at it, it looks maybe very creative and very graphic and all that, and they're able to really love it and then get you in for the job. And one that if you know that you are going through an ATS, you usually find a lot of resumes out there that seem very boring, but they seem to get jobs and all that. It is just about knowing how to play the game and knowing which one is easier for the systems to be able to scan and pick out the keywords. So yeah, it helps to be able to know that your application is first going through a machine before it gets to a human being. So you don't go to a human being first. And if you don't make it through the ATS, you don't even go to a human being. Yeah, and a lot of opinions are out there on these systems, but it is what we are working with now, and it helps that you know how to work around them. So there are a lot of resources online. You can just Google how to write a good ATS resume, and it would help you with that as well. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's great, because I think there's a lot of people who insist that it's not used, and others that insist that it is highly used. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is very highly used because it's just not possible. And what a lot of these big companies do nowadays is they allow you to maybe go onto their job portal upload your CV, then they pull out the information from it and then show you that information. You are able to go through forms and edit that information before they pass it to the system. So you see what the ATS is picking out of your system, but some of them just use systems that they don't allow you that opportunity. So if you're able to see what the ATS is pulling out of your resume, you might see maybe some inconsistencies and all that. And the systems that wouldn't show this to you might not even be as sophisticated as these systems that show it to you, and you still see inconsistencies. So it is harder for you to actually get through those systems. The ones that show you the information, you can immediately make changes and give them the right information where the ATS is getting the information wrong, and it will still help get you through the door.
So that you can actually pass your CV through a system to check how it will react in an ATS.
Exactly. Yeah, there are some out there.
That's a good practical tip.
And some of them, some of the jobs that people open allow you to pass it through their own ATS. Then they show you the information that they got out of it in a form. Then you're able to go through and edit it, because this is what they are going to look at, not your resume itself. They'll look at what is extracted from the form. That way they can compare different people, how many years of experience they have, what skills they have, and all that, what tools they have worked with over those years before they actually decide to look at individual people.
Okay, and maybe back to your actual job, Laetitia, if you want to just ask your question. It kind of relates to leadership, maybe. Yes. Oh, not now. Yeah.
I don't know if Laetitia is talking, but I can hear her.
Yeah, it's quite quiet. I think we're just going to switch machines.
No problem.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, you even got my face. I just wanted to ask you, how is it being like a tech lead? How different is it from being a software engineer?
Okay. Yeah, so moving from software engineer to tech lead is different in the sense that as a software engineer, you're focusing on a small piece of the software and how that works, how your variables and everything moves together. But when you get to that bigger picture, you're focusing on bigger solutions and how they work as a whole, and not just on maybe the technical part of it, but also how this fits into your company strategy and all that. So it is definitely a bigger picture, being able to also manage the engineers that work under you, not just in terms of their technical skills, but it becomes a more people-centered approach as well. And it has definitely taken some adapting to, but I was able to leverage some of the experience that I had working leading my engineering team when I was at Vodafone, and also working as a lead of research and development at Hacklab to actually help me adapt fast in this role. So it is different because whilst a software engineer, you can just sit and focus on your PC all day. In the tech leadership role, you have to work more with people, call a lot more people during the day, make sure they are being productive and working on tasks, make sure they are happy, they have no blockers. So that is one of the main things that, as part of the job daily, you have to make sure that no one has something that is in the way of allowing them to be productive. So that's why we have daily Scrum sessions and all that. And if someone tells you something that, well, this is my blocker and I haven't been able to work, maybe because AWS permissions are denying me this to do that. If you don't get that out of their way, they are not going to be able to be productive during the day. So mostly it's about eliminating those blockers and making sure your people can be productive. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
It's good. All right. So, any final questions? No, maybe not. I think it's a. You've given us lots to think about there. Okay. Well, yeah, coming from the apprentices at FRA Engineering School, do you do 3 days at work and 2 days at school? Is that it? It's 3 days on the job and then 2 days studying.
Oh, okay.
Could I just ask finally, Aberdeen, how long have you been there, and has it been a culture shock?
Well, I've been in Aberdeen for I think it's been 6 months now, and there's not been much of a culture shock because, well, I don't know, maybe it's because I come from a country that is maybe closely related to UK because Ghana is an English-speaking country because of the UK. So it hasn't been that as much different as I thought it would be, but definitely, yeah, in some sense, yes, because sometimes there are some words maybe we don't use in Ghana that I find hard to maybe process when people use them over here and all that. But in all, it hasn't been too different from what we have in Ghana. Yeah.
And what about the work ethic?
The work ethic?
Do people prefer to just routinely stick to the 35, the legal limit of working hours?
Well, I don't think I've been able to experience much of that because, well, working in technology and everyone mostly working from home, and most people that I work with working from home now, you definitely end up working more than you are supposed to work, especially with the pandemic and all that. So there's been a lot of data that people are working more now, even though a lot of bosses want to get them back into the office, but it's pointing to more productivity now. So I don't think I've had much experience with people actually sticking to how much time that they have to work, especially in software engineering, because you're usually assigned maybe a project for a particular time sprint or something. And if you come to that time sprint and maybe you're not done with that project, then you're like, oh, maybe I was only working 35 hours. That's why I didn't finish with this. That doesn't look so good on you. So that's something that I also think maybe might need some looking at in the industry. But it's different from working in a role where maybe you have things coming in daily that you're attending to. So that way you can stick to working within a certain time frame. But being able to plan our stuff for long time frames and able to complete them within that time does not allow you that opportunity to stick to those time frames. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Hamzah, thanks for joining us. Maybe it's a good moment here just to say goodbye. And
oh yeah, it was great to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, that's been a whole hour. Thanks.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been really great. Okay.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah.
Enjoy your last task.
Yeah, Paul, I'm sure we'll talk. Yeah.
All right. Bye. Ciao.
Yeah, bye, guys. Yeah. And feel free to add me up on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions, just let me know. Yeah. I'm glad to assist.
Thanks.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.